kind of going back to the lessons learned from my dad, and I've experienced them somewhat myself too, is just the various business cycles that occur, not just at a macro level, not just, okay, the nation's in recession, et cetera, but you know, he often tells a story of, in about the early to mid 90s, we were doing a lot of hospital work, as project management, scheduling, project controls, etc. And at some point, that market dried up. Whatever needs assessment or notices of opportunity that the hospitals were doing at the time, I don't know if necessarily the need totally went away, but the capital did, and it kind of, frankly, caught the company at that time a bit unaware, and so it was a matter of retooling and getting on with it. But it really led to this lesson of diversification. That my dad even uses the analogy often of this. At one point, we were a one-legged stool, and you knock out one of those. Well, first of all, that's not a good thing, but that doesn't give you much to fall back on, and so we developed other divisions of the company, and we developed another good example that I was here for. I left the active component of the Army in 2008. And it's kind of funny in a way, because at that point I was really kind of ready for something new and different. And when I joined the company, of course, that was right around the time of a big business cycle, the Great Recession. And we had kind of avoided, for the most part, federal work up until that point. We had enough elsewhere to keep us occupied. And right around the time I came on board, it became evident, one, that there was DoD doing their BRAC program. There was stuff at that point. In fact, I did it while I was still in the Corps of Engineers. A lot of this Homeland Security, back then it wasn't a wall, it was a fence. And the fence was actually canine kennels and sally ports and, everything related to Border Patrol. But the bigger side of it was the fact that the federal government was spending money to stimulate the economy during the recession. And so it was a matter of, well, how do we do this? Myself and another gentleman was a former NAVFAC contracting officer, and that was an investment. It took us a good 2 years worth of understanding the acquisition process from a federal perspective, going to different groups, different conferences, networking, and going through quite a few RFPs that and getting to a point where we could be in the set-aside market and compete in areas that made sense for us, rather than, that is a totally different time than it was now, in that, your average unrestricted solicitation was getting 30 respondents, and it was like, well, that doesn't work. So we had to figure out our niche, and that kind of was our next iteration of who we were at that time.
Yeah, and as people like to say, history repeats itself. I don't like to say it repeats itself, but it certainly rhymes. And we're headed into a recession, and there's a lot of federal work around the Infrastructure Act, et cetera. So sounds kind of similar in time. So, businesses of your size can really be thinking about that right now.